This is the second video over absolute value, and in this video I'm combining absolute value with the rules of order. So let's just go straight into an example that I see here. And if we recall the rules of order, the easiest way to remember that is the acronym PEMDAS, or the saying, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally." When we saw P, which stands for parentheses in PEMDAS, we know that it's not just parentheses, but anything that falls into that same suit. So parentheses, brackets, braces. But we also know there's things that come with hidden parentheses, a division bar, absolute value, square root symbols, and maybe even other things that I have yet to call to your attention. It doesn't matter. With any of these things under the parentheses category, we know to work them from the inside out when they are nested within each other. So that's the process that we're going to follow when we see absolute value in a problem with multiple operations. So I have a first example here. I suggest that you pause the video and see if you can do this one on your own. So I see lots of different absolute values here. I actually see 3 of them. One here, and then one on the outside. It goes the same with parentheses. Work them from the inside out. Now, since our 2 innermost absolute values are isolated from each other, I can actually work both of those at the same time. Now, even though I can work both of them at the same time, I'm only going to simplify this one because it has an extra step than the other one does, and I want to kind of keep them aligned in the same steps. So, copying everything down from step to step, except for the thing that I'm going to use, and here I take 3 minus 7. 3 minus 7 gives me negative 4. Now I can work my innermost absolute values, which means I change all of those into positive numbers. I still have my absolute value on the outside. Absolute value of 1 is 1, minus absolute value of negative 4 is positive 4. So do not cancel out those double negatives there because absolute value takes care of this one separately than this one. Again, absolute value has hidden parentheses, so I'm going to work the inside of this first, keeping my absolute value on the outside. 1 minus 4 gives me negative 3, and my last step, the absolute value of negative 3, turns it into a positive 3. So there is my final answer to this problem. Now, this one actually had a lot of steps in it, but this one is a simple problem compared to the other examples that I have. So let's see those. Now, these are ones that I pulled exactly from your online homework, so if you can follow these steps, you should be really good to go when you're working your own homework problems. I suggest that you pause the video and see if you can work this one on your own. All right, it all goes back to PEMDAS, starting with parentheses from the inside out. So the first thing that I see that I'm going to do in this problem is take 3 minus 4. Don't forget to copy everything from step to step because that's going to help you eliminate losing things along the way. 3 minus 4 gives me negative 1. Now I can take the absolute value of that negative 1. So absolute value turns it into a positive. So I have positive 1 minus 8. Again, I follow my checklist of PEMDAS. We're starting with parentheses from the inside out. So I'm going to work this 1 minus 8. 1 minus 8 gives me negative 7. And again, I just copy everything else down. Next, I take the absolute value of negative 7, which turns it into a positive. Okay, Again, starting over, PEMDAS, parentheses, with the inside out. So I can take 5 plus 7. I'm going to move over to the right here because I ran out of room on the left. So I have 9 minus 12 in parentheses divided by square root of 9. Now, I do have parentheses left, but these parentheses are not telling me to do any operation. So I need to look and see what else I have left in the problem. I have a subtraction, I have a division, and I have a square root. Before I want to do the division, I want to simplify my square root here. The square root of 9 is 3 because 3 squared gives me 9. And remember, square roots are opposites of squares. So now I can do this division here. And by the way, I said earlier that these parentheses were not holding any operation, so I actually, in fact, could have got rid of those parentheses, and it would not have changed this problem any. I would still be doing division as my next step. 12 divided by 3 gives me 4, and I'm down to my final step. 9 minus 4 gives me 5. So my final answer to this problem is 5. All right, I have one more example. Again, this is similar to one on your online homework, so I suggest that you pause the video and see if you can work this on your own. Okay, it all goes back to PEMDAS, parentheses, starting with the inside. Now, I see lots of operations here, and in fact, I see a couple different sets of parentheses. Since these are all isolated from each other, I can work a couple of these at the same time. So I can work the inside of this parentheses, and I can work the inside of this hidden parentheses. Since they're isolated from each other, I can work them together at the same time. So 3 minus 9 gives me a negative 6, and copying everything else that I have. Negative 5 plus 3 gives me negative 2. That is still inside the absolute value. So now I need to reevaluate and see what my next step is. So I still see parentheses here. Okay. I have this set of parentheses, which doesn't have any operations inside. I have this set of parentheses, which doesn't have any operations inside. And then I really have this here, which I need to simplify that. So all I'm going to do in this step is take the absolute value of negative 2, but I really could be doing more than that here. I just want to kind of keep all my steps in the same place. So copying everything down again and again. It might seem like a waste of time, but I promise it's going to give you better answers and better results in the long run. Absolute value of negative 2 is positive 2. Okay, now I need to figure out what to do next. Well, I really still have some extra hidden parentheses that I haven't even talked about yet. This means I need to work everything in the top separately from everything in the bottom, and my very last step is going to be in that division bar. So if I look in the top, I see lots of exponents, and they're all isolated from each other, so I can do all of these exponents at the exact same time. Again, I'm moving up here because I ran out of room down below. So negative 6 squared is negative 6 times negative 6, which gives me a positive 36, plus 2 squared gives me 4, minus 3 squared gives me 9. In the bottom, I have addition and division, so that means I got to do my division first. So I have 2 plus negative 12 divided by 3 gives me a negative 4. And I'm going to put parentheses around that to help remind me that that negative goes there. Now, in the top, addition and subtraction, so I want to do that from left to right. And I'm going to do that all at one step. 36 plus 4 is 40, and 40 minus 9 is a 31. And on the bottom, 2 plus a negative 4, or I could really think about this as 2 minus 4. My bigger one is 4, so 4 minus 2 gives me 2, and my larger one is negative, so this gives me a negative here. All right, if this was written homework, this would be your final answer, because I always want fractions more than I want mixed fractions, more than I want decimals. But on this homework, it says that I should round to 1 decimal place if necessary. So that means I actually need to divide it out. So I'm going to type this in my calculator. 31 divided by 2 gives me 15.5. And I know that I have a positive divided by a negative, which gives me a negative. So my final answer in this problem is a negative 15.5, because again, that is rounded to 1 decimal place. So this finishes up all the examples that I have with absolute value incorporated with multiple operations, meaning incorporated with the rules of order that we've learned earlier.